Hi, so today I'm going to read out my personal statement, which I wrote for when applying for economics at LSE, and that got me into LSE for economics. So, So basically, I wrote it in hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Never mind. Okay, so basically I wrote it in 5 paragraphs. The first paragraph is a short paragraph to sort of just briefly explain why I want to do economics. And it should be short, because then the reader won't feel like, oh, there's a big chunk of text I need to read. It would be easier for the reader just mentally. So let me read it. I'm attentive to the role economics plays in shaping lives. When watching critics' commentaries and debates on China, I realized economics is manipulated as a tool by the government for opposite reasons than initially designed. I want to study economics to fight the misuse of it. When I was writing that personal statement, I was pretty focused on China, and especially its abolishment of human rights and persecution of ethnic and religious minorities. That was a topic that I was interested in and really engaged for a pretty long time. So when I was writing my statement, I really just embedded it in my statement. And in fact, that actually made my personal statement looks more like politics rather than economic, more mathy. It was actually more politics, more PPE style actually. So that my teacher actually recommended me to apply for PPE, so politics, philosophy and econ instead of pure econ, because pure econ, now after studying econ, is very, very mathematical. But still I got in with it. So I think it's really important to give a more personal reason to why you want to study economics. I know a friend who also got in LSE for econ. He wrote about a book he read on Japanese economy, and then he concluded with, so I think economics is really good, blah, blah, blah. So just give a personal reason, no matter it's political or mathematical. So my second and third paragraph, actually fourth as well, was more on personal reasons and books I read. For that, I would really recommend you to not give a list of books you read, because that doesn't show, I'm really knowledgeable. That doesn't show it. It just shows that you researched the list of books. People like interviewers, admission people aren't gonna be impressed by it. So just mention a few books. Keep it to 3 maximum, but really go deep. Don't just give a summary about it, because that's really general. So my advice would be don't give breadth, but actually give some more depth. So let me read my second paragraph. My second paragraph is more mathy, is more mathematical actually. My interest in incentives in decision-making grows from considering the psychological state of various constructs in study literature to constructing arguments, analyzing economic agents. Varying normative perspectives make me think that bias naturally lies in economic arguments and models, prompting me to read about omitted variable bias, which I'm introduced to instrumental variables. Economics intersection with math drives me to learn basic simple linear regression and H+ curve sketching alongside double math. I applied what I learned from OVB when reading an RES paper on how the pressure to marry in China drives men to commit financially rewarding crimes. I think there's an omitted variable driving both events, undesired features that cannot be directly measured, including many things like low salaries, making men unpopular in the marriage market, and drive them to commit crimes. Economics help me to understand observations in the world around me, where logic alone won't suffice, notably social implications of economic phenomena. Now reading back this statement after studying 2 years at LSE for econ, I think what's good about it really is 2 things. First, give an opinion. just give a bloody opinion. And second, mention about extra stuff you do. So like reading RES, so Royal Economic Society's paper, although I didn't really understand it because it's all math and I didn't study econometrics, so I didn't understand like 98% of the whole paper. All I understand was like the summary that was in English words, but it doesn't matter. Anyways, actually, so just focus more on extra stuff you do, especially the extra mathy stuff you do if you are applying for pure economics, and also focus on like giving opinion. So my third paragraph, so it's about a book I read on development economics. Reading Globalization and its discontent, I felt a strong sense of moral duty. While surface-level study had me believe poverty can be gradually eradicated through consistent global growth like a byproduct, Stiglitz' work opened my eyes to the significance of prioritizing the aim as a moral responsibility rather than just a numbers game. Unemployment figures are not called statistical data, but real people, families in ruin. I found the author's expose on the IMF's tendency to publish one-size-fits-all reports for developing nations and the subsequent speculation of designing policy prescription in a similar manner very troubling. Together, I hope to better understand the policy design process with the ultimate goal of working policy. So two things about it. First is my recommendation to do reading, extracurricular, supercurricular, whatever reading. Don't just read it. Actually, reading like a academic text, make summaries, and just after you analyze the whole book, just like making some summaries and stuff, you can look through it, and that's how you actually understand the book. And then maybe just mention one or two things in the summaries in your personal statement. And another thing I want to say is do not mention you want to work in the financial sector or whatever when studying economics, because it doesn't really have that much. It's not finance, so don't mention things like that. Just say you don't really have to say anything about future career, but when you're writing a personal statement, just think you want to do an economics PhD with that in mind, and then write your statement. So my third paragraph, which is the last paragraph on why I want to study economics, is since broad perspective presentation of freedoms in development as freedom raises my concern of China's unsustainable condition. The economy is suppressed by growing unfreedom, grows at a rapid abnormal rate. This miracle is an illusion. The government uses data in a biased way, making the Chinese economy seem prosperous, namely in comparing the delay of the HS2 project with its own railways built in a few months. But many citizens' properties are affected and some lands are wasted, adversely affecting quality of life. A film by The Economist mentions Chinese students paying large sum of fees, but I found that 600 million people earn less than £100 per month in 2020, and now question if the Chinese economy expands as it seems. Knowing how the corrupt government grants monopolies of innovation to a few notorious firms that poses security risks like Huawei, I'm convinced that it is a Frankenstein. A poor government cripples the economy, namely ignoring rising debt levels, leading to the Minsky moment. In the future, I hope to use economics to prevent injustices like this. So I was pretty passionate, as I said, about just human rights in general. So when I was writing it, so some books I read, Amartya Sen's book on development as freedom was mentioning things like sources of unfreedom, so I mentioned that in my statement. And because I also study English literature as one of my A-levels alongside maths, further maths, EPQ, and economics, I actually had my English lit teacher looking through my statement for me. And because they're really good at using words elegantly and like making it look more, not just like wordy, making it look more concise. So that really helped me a lot so they really help me a lot in explaining what I want to say. So if you have people who are good at English literature, or if you could get your English lit teacher or history teacher to look through your personal statement for you, no matter whether you're applying for more quantity major, it's quantity degree is really helpful. Yeah. So my last paragraph, it's extracurricular. So a tip to talking about your extracurricular is that you really want to say what your extracurricular activities helped you and developed your skills, because those skills are generic. They could be applied, for instance, like discipline or teamwork. They could be applied in an academic setting. They could be applied in a more sports extracurricular setting. It can be applied anywhere. So mention how those things make you develop those skills. So what I said about my last paragraph, actually I drew back to the beginning where I was talking about China's persecution of human rights, and I said I talked about very personal reason why I'm very passionate about it, and that's because the Chinese government, they have persecuted a lot of religious minorities, such as the Christians, the Muslims, the Uyghurs, and also the people who practice belief called Falun Dafa or Falun Gong, and they believe in truthfulness, compassion, forbearance, and it was a very, very popular meditation, very popular belief, but it was crushed down when it get too popular in China. So my parents and me, we all practice this belief, and it was because of this exact reason why we have to migrate from China to London. Okay, I have so this is my last paragraph. I have an inherent fascination with the human condition, as I experienced first-hand psychological harm as a child. When I was 7, my mom was persecuted for her belief in Falun Gong. Hence I filmed a documentary for my EPQ, Extended Project Qualification, which is half an hour, on how we are invisible victims under the government's persecution of rights and brainwashing education systems. To raise awareness, I wrote an autobiographical play, The Bystander, and gave out leaflets on weekends since I was 11. Campaigning taught me that perseverance and resilience are of paramount importance in overcoming challenging times. I have developed and maintained this mental strength and will apply them to all future life endeavors, notably my university studies, where I will be prepared to use my knowledge as a tool to improve welfare and other conditions in the future. So literally I just talked about 2 things that I think are pretty special about me. So the play I wrote and the documentary I filmed. So that I use those as my extracurricular. But you can also talk about sporty stuff if you're good at it. Yep. Yeah, that's it. That's my personal statement. So a general tip in writing your personal statement, make sure it's personal and it's specific, and it's focused on depth, not breadth, and don't do it in a big chunk. So make sure the first paragraph is small, just a brief paragraph introduction to why you want to study economics or other subjects, and that will make the reader feel a lot more less they'll just think it's more lightweight rather than a massive chunk as a past paragraph. If the first paragraph is lighter, it's easier, and also people won't get zoned out if your paragraphs are really long. So make sure they're concise, precise, and make sure if you're applying for a more academic-orientated university like Oxbridge, LSE, Imperial, UCL, make sure you mention 80%, 70 to 80% should be academic, and the rest 20% would be more extracurricular focused. And if you can do it, maybe do a cyclical thing ties back, so the beginning and the end sort of ties together. I think that would help as well. It would look better. And also just like pick out some special points about yourself and mention it. Good luck!